it comes up with the deck. There's a deck liner on the inside to reinforce the deck. The hull and the transom is already included in it, which was always a pain with the previous kit. There's a shell on the inside that beautifully fits on the inside, and you epoxy that in. Then you have the hatch. There's an inner transom. There's an inner transom that goes in to reinforce it a little bit more, because it's very thin, and to get it out of the mould, obviously it need to be thin. There's a little tray here that fits up the bow in front of the king post for the battery to sit on. And there's another little fitting here that goes down into the transom where the rudder servo goes. This little piece here is underneath the deck for the support for the king post. These are extra little things that go into this mould so you can put screws through into it. The keel comes complete. It's already made up. It's got the lead in it and it weighs about 7 pounds. There's a little shoe, and the servo board is very, very neat. I don't know what it's made of. I think it feels very much like a very thick or very strong fiberglass board, and it comes with a switch already installed in it, and then you can then cut out from it whatever size servo you decide to put in there. The rudder also comes already complete, and then there's this very fancy thing here goes into the transom for the rudder to go into, so it makes it absolutely spot on. Then there's various other bits and bobs that they supply with it. Yeah, and it gets it all aligned. And then what he's done a very fairly comprehensive way of describing the whole makeup of the boat, where you first of all you're going to put the liner into the underneath the deck to reinforce the deck, because I think that he must have felt that the deck was just maybe a little bit thin, but he's got this liner and it really reinforces it,
stiffens it up.
Yeah. And then his very interesting way of actually attaching the liner with clothes pegs. Put all the clothes pegs around, and then epoxy it in. Little piece of wood across here just to force the middle bit down. Put a couple of cans of peas or beans or whatever you've got in the cupboard, just a bit of weight on it. So that's building the deck to start with. Then you go on to looking at the liner that goes on the inside of the boat. Now the liner has little indentations either side, and it supplies these little bits of plastic that you glue those in. You glue them in so that when you're putting screws in from the inside of the boat, you've got something for it to screw to. Okay? Because the servo board goes across, there's two little shelves. These are the little shelves that the servo board actually sits on, and then that makes it really strong, and again aligns it absolutely perfect. Out of the many solings that I've built, and if you look at a lot of solings, you'll find that the rudder and the keel, they're always slightly out.
Yes, as is mine.
Yeah, this is absolutely 100%. Coming down with the transom, there's an inner piece to put inside the transom just to strengthen it up. So you just pop that inside. Sand the plastic before you glue anything, obviously. Then epoxies the inner lining into it. And again, you've got your cans of beans and whatever is weights to weigh it down. And then clip around the outside with the clothes pegs to clip it all in and leave it to dry off. Now we've got a hull and a deck. Then just cleaning things up, making sure it's nice and clean. I didn't have to do very much cleaning up on it, I must admit. It was very well constructed. Then you get the little nitty-gritty, very good innovation is on the hatch. You put two little shelves on the hatch here, little shelves around here, and in those shelves you put little magnets which are supplied. So when the hatch goes on, it magnets it down.
Perfect.
Which is
At 4
absolutely
points.
clever, very clever. We really thought of most things.
Yeah. At 4 points.
Yeah.
So that the cover is rigid.
So that so that's what we're doing here, is putting the little magnets in. Underneath the deck there's little areas in which to put another piece of fiberglass in there, so that your attachments for your shrouds and everything else has a little bit more reinforcement to attach it to. Again, that's in the transom, so that you can put your screw through for your transom. You've got something for it to screw into. I did, at the end of the day, I put a little piece of wood in there as well, so that the screw could go into it.
The backing plate.
Yeah. He made up a box, a simple cardboard box for construction. So you could stand the keel up in the box, so you can stand everything up, and but I've got a cradle at home that I stand everything in. Again, drilling the holes for the keel, because the keel's got 2 bolts that come up through. Okay,
A lot more rigidity there.
Yeah, and then there's a shoe. This little shoe down inside here. See a little shoe? Okay, that reinforcing gives it extra little bit more strength, because the keel obviously can go this way and bend the plastic. So that reinforces that. The servo board, which is supplied in the kit, has 2 little shelves it sits on. Okay, and the 2 holes, so it sets the keel absolutely 100% upright. And if you look down through here, you'll see the rudder and the keel are absolutely dead on straight.
Oh yeah.
Very few solings you see that. And then you've got the servo board being fitted in. You lift it up, put the. What we're using, they're using a like a bath sealant or a window sealant. So all of the joint
Silicone sealer.
is like a silicone sealant instead of epoxy. And I was a bit dubious about that to start with, but if you're patient and you let it dry off for 24 hours, it becomes very solid. And the seam all the way around this joint is absolutely spot on. Again, putting the shoe in, and then you put the sealant on the bottom. There's 2 little plastic tubes, if you see them better here. They go over the top of the 2 bolts, and then the shoe goes over the top of those, so that it seals. You shouldn't get any water going up through the bolt, because I haven't sealed the keel in. The keel, you can undo the 2 bolts and the keel will come out, so if you want to travel with it. So that's putting the servo board in, and then screwing, either side. You got the screws going through and the nuts and bolts. Then we go through to putting the rudder in, and the rudder servo. Again, putting the sealant onto it. You drill the hole in the bottom. There's a little pimple in the mould that you can then just drill a hole through, and it tells you all the sides of the drills to put in, and that goes into it. Then the servo board, and what we've tried to do on this one, if you come round and look through here, you'll see the servo board. I've drilled various holes in it just to try to take a little bit of weight out of it.
Okay.
Yeah. It probably takes a minuscule amount out, but you're obviously trying to save a little bit. So that was putting the servo board in, and there's the rudder.
And because of the way the servo board is attached now, it's going to provide more rigidity.
Yeah,
to the
the
hull
servo
also.
board is put in again purely with the sealant. It's purely
no.
stuck in the ceiling.
And there's sort of a bracket that
Yeah.
in the hull to accept.
You go look at the
Yeah, there we go.
down in through there.
So the bracket accepts the servo
That's
board.
right. Yeah, and it accepts the servo board. It makes it nice and simple to put it in and out. And this is, we use Loctite PL glue. So that was really this was really his initial idea of putting it in. Then he came up with some additional things to try to reduce a little bit of weight. You could cut the battery bracket or battery thing in half to lose a little bit. On the inner transom, you can drill various holes in the back of that. Again, like that.
Lightning holes.
Yeah, lightning holes. And just, trim a few things off just to try to lose a little bit of weight. Trimming these bits off here, drilling a few holes in it. I made mine similar to this. I took big chunks out from there and there. Because what it is, it's very clever, very beautifully well designed. You put the inner reinforcement in, and it leaves a little groove around. Doesn't show it on that, but it leaves a little groove on the inside of the deck. So you've got the outer flange and an inner flange, and then you've got like an eighth of an inch all the way around that the hull just pops straight into. So you put the sealant on that around that groove, and then I did mine upside down. I made a board that I could put it on, and then I put the hull upside down on top of it, and it then squeezes all the glue out. And I taped this up to start with. I got it down hard, and I put tape to hold it down, and I then put some tape along, and then cut the tape just to leave a cut line. So when I put the deck on, the sealant could ooze out. And then all I then did, once it had gone off a little bit, I then took the thing off, and it left a perfect edge on it all the way around. And if you look at that edge on there, look at the edge all the way around. Absolutely perfect. And you don't see many sailings that have, unless you see most of mine, I build without the flange. I build with flanges. If you look at Jim's, his is a flangeless boat. Probably needs still a little bit of tidying up, but I was quite keen to get it in the water. So you can do whatever servo you want to use. I found this little servo, which seems to work very well. So we just wait and see how we go.
Would you say that because of the more modular construction that a first timer is going to have an easier time building?
I think they're going to have an easier time building this than the old one.
The older version?
The old version. The old version, putting the transom in my view, was the worst thing ever. The worst part of the design in the old version was putting the transom in. And a lot of people, didn't really put them in properly.
So that alone is going to make a first timer.
A first timer.
It's going to make the boat more attractive.
Absolutely. Plus the fact that when you buy the kit, the keel is already made up and the rudder is already made up. So you don't have to go out and find yourself 6 pounds of lead shot and then all the epoxy to fill it up, and the hassle that goes behind
Weighing
that.
and
The rudder is already made up, and weighing this without cutting any of the bits out to try to make it lighter, it came out at 10 pounds, about 10 pounds 9 ounces. So it was about 9 ounces overweight. That's including the battery in there. But these printed sails are a little bit heavier than the conventional sails.
I guess I never thought of that.
Yeah, they're slightly heavier. And I didn't cut any of the inner lining. You could cut a fair chunk of this off it to reduce it down. But no, I think the whole concept is very good, and hopefully it will regenerate the class. But the name of the company, if anyone wants to look it up on the internet,
Vacuum form?
is what was it called? Was it Vacuform, was it?
Yeah.
I think it's Vacuform, and vacuform.com, and you'll find all these instructions in that. Yeah. Yeah. So, but you know, I found it very good.
Well,
Very
thank you.
clever. No problem.
Alan Perkins at the Villages.
Yep.
His first, he's been one of the people involved in probing and testing the new Soling 1 meter.
Yep.
And this is the hull that he has put together and is going to sail today. Thank you, Alan.
Okay, my pleasure.